precedes him. But just to give some context for our conversation, Bill Campbell has truly one of the most remarkable careers in business, having been not only the chairman and former CEO of Intuit, but really the key advisor to many of the great businesses that have been created in Silicon Valley over the past 3 decades. Bill has been on the board of Apple for the past 15 plus years. He was a key advisor and continues to be a key advisor to Google, was a key advisor to Jeff Bezos in the early days, and continues to work with great entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley, including the people at Twitter and Dropbox and so forth. But more importantly, from my perspective, what Bill continues to do is he started his career as a coach, and he continues to be a coach. And for the last 10 years, has coached 8th grade football, which I've been happy to be his assistant football coach. But Bill's reputation in sports and business is such that the National Football Association names their top award, the William V. Campbell Award, which goes to the top player, top scholar, and top leader, effectively the Heisman Trophy for academics. Moreover, Bill has been the chairman of the Board of Trustees at Columbia for the past 7 years, and I can't imagine anybody that has greater perspective to offer our summit than Bill Campbell. So with that introduction, I'd like to start off. Bill, what exactly do you do?
Just thank you for not telling them my football coaching record.
Well, there's a reason you're in business.
Exactly.
Yeah, so Bill was the head football coach at Columbia before he came out to Silicon Valley and was at Apple to start his career. So again, what do you do? They call you the coach of Silicon Valley. I know you don't call
you call me that.
I call you that, okay, but people do. What exactly do you do?
Well, generally, when I started doing this, actually John Doerr asked me to do the first one, which was to help a little bit with Jeff Bezos when he had, they brought on I think the board did it without really Jeff enthusiastically welcoming it, but they brought a COO on board, and they were struggling a little bit with the relationship and wanted me to see if I couldn't help that a little bit. So I spent time going up there from Silicon Valley to Seattle and working a lot with Jeff and his COO, who shall remain nameless. But it was clear at the time. I think they felt like maybe Jeff would step up and be the chairman of the board, and the other guy would take over. And I said, well, if that's what you have in mind, then why don't you just do it? You don't need me to come up there and help you do that. So, no, you assess the situation. So, in a short period of time there, it didn't take that long to realize that Jeff was brilliant, almost a genius at that point, and knew exactly what he wanted to do with his company. And that wasn't the case with the other guy. So we managed to have the other guy leave, and Jeff was firmly entrenched in the role. Well, with John, then he asked me if I'd help him with a couple of other companies, and that's basically the way it started. I had stepped down as CEO of Intuit. Wasn't sure what I was going to do. I thought every Silicon Valley's been wonderful to me, and I thought that giving back would be the right thing to do. I thought giving back some of my operating experience would probably be better than most anything. I didn't think I'd be a very good venture capitalist. I think I can get you from here to here probably as well as most, but I'm not sure I could get here. The application of technology and that Steve Jobs or John Doerr, Vinod Kushner, people like that have, I didn't have. I didn't really feel like I could do that. So that was a good opportunity for me to help. And everybody likes my fees. It's hard to argue with zero.
So over the last 3 decades, how have you seen Silicon Valley change? And what makes Silicon Valley so special?
Well, there was a time when I first came to Silicon Valley when people thought that management practices were going to be the biggest differentiator. You can go back into, I came to Silicon Valley in 1983. IBM PC was out. There were clone companies out there, and everybody, all the clone companies that where they kept trying to hire IBM sales guys to be their CEOs. And so what happened is, I think over time, people realized that the product was the single most important thing, and that the CEO better, one, know about products, two, care about them deeply, and three, be able to hire people that really know how to do those things, or they couldn't be the CEOs of companies. If they wanted to hire a sales guy, go hire an IBM guy, but that wasn't the case. That isn't what they were doing. Silicon Valley has had many transitions over time, mostly technology generations, if you will. And, but you know, and those will continue to happen. Those will continue to evolve. New things will emerge, people will follow that, some people will do it. Some people will do it better. You know, Facebook was probably like the third social network, and yet they did it right, and so they got, you know, the bulk of the business. You know, will there be somebody come along and outfox Twitter? Maybe. You never know. But the fact is that technology is really what the Valley is about. Understanding it, applying it, using it in a productive way. Everything that you're seeing today is, you know, it used to be macho people used to know how to you know, work personal computers. You know, today, if Steve Jobs made it popular to not have to ask the question, to not put instructions in the box, you know, so that you could literally turn it on and know exactly how to use it. That's the way it's been with all of the Apple products. That's the kind of environment that's been created here over the years, and everybody's contributed to that. A lot of people have contributed to that.
So you've been the mentor to a number of great CEOs, Steve Jobs, Eric Schmidt, Jeff Bezos, and so forth. Who were your mentors, and what did you learn from them?
Oh my goodness. You know, it's, I came out to Silicon Valley kind of alone. John Scully had hired me. He had interviewed me at Pepsi when I got out of coaching. And I went on to J. Walter Thompson, and then later Kodak. And I was at Kodak in Europe when he called me, and I came over. So I had a really good guy I had a really good person at J. Walter Thompson, Jean Maris. She was wonderful. And you coached me a lot on how to be a good advertising executive. But when I came to Silicon Valley, the two people that helped me the most were Floyd Kwame, who left Apple and became a partner at Kleiner Perkins, and Regis McKenna, who was an advisor to Apple and Steve and the company. Both magnificent guys. And in fact, I'm having dinner with Regis tomorrow night. It's fun to be with him, and he's still one of the most insightful guys you'll ever see. There's nobody that can translate something that's complex and make it simple than Reg can.
So Steve Jobs had a passion for education innovation. Now his wife Lorraine has been very active. Any insights to kind of what got him excited about the space and what he was looking for? Well,
you know, in the early days, Steve cared deeply about education, and you know, when the Macintosh first came out, you know, the penetration opportunity was Macintoshes in the universities. So, and it was a terrific program. You know, one where, I mean, a lot of the people that were involved in that program, the schools and many of the people that were either provosts or not many of them had technical people that were really in charge of the overall programs, but these guys absorbed that technology and used it. And if they, you know, Steve really had this vision, if we gave them money to, gave them computers to work on, that they would develop for us. I mean, Carnegie Mellon was the greatest example. And there, Pat Creasine, now deceased, was the provost at Georgia Tech, and he was, I think for a lot of years, was known as the father of academic computing. And he was just, I mean, he led that whole group. They called it the Apple University Consortium. And then he went to Georgia Tech, and that was my first time I was ever on a board of trustees. You know, he had a couple of people that were not Georgia Tech graduates that he wanted to come on, and we had, a wonderful time there. He really rebuilt everything, put a college of computing in there at the school, and was a great leader in getting the Olympics to Atlanta. So, but that was, so Steve really cared deeply about all that. Lorene, of course, Lorene is really into helping underprivileged young people. And it's just so wonderful to see. She cares so much about it, donates her time, donates her money, gets people like all of us. A friend of mine is here tonight, Mark Mazur, who's on her board. She worked with him at Goldman Sachs and gets him to come out here and be on that board and help with the getting the right infrastructure there, making sure that we raise money and then can deploy it properly.
So your dad was a teacher and a superintendent. How has that shaped your view on education?
Well, the wonderful thing about it, my dad went to Pitt on a football scholarship, dropped out, went to World War I. I hate to be showing all my age. When he came back, they let him be a coach and teach phys ed at the school without a diploma. And he went to Duquesne University. It probably took him another 9 years before he finally got his diploma.
Wow.
And then became a junior high school principal and ultimately the superintendent of the school. I mean, it was, one high school, one vocational school, and one elementary school. It wasn't like it was a big thing. You've been there.
I've been there.
You've been out there to Steel Valley, it's called now. It was Homestead, Pennsylvania. But it was to see the adulation that was bestowed upon my dad really made a big deal to me. That the students there at the school really felt that he was their hero, that he was trying to give them something that they didn't have. And all the things that I do for the town now is just based on wanting to do things that would make my father proud.
So you've been chairman of the Board of Trustees for the past 7 years.
We are in the middle of 8.
Yeah.
On the way toward trending down toward 8, hopefully getting out after this one.
So,
Of a 3-year term.
Of a 3, I know. So, what have you been most proud of what you've accomplished? What do you see as maybe, Columbia or higher education's biggest challenges?
Well, I mean, Columbia had to right itself financially. It was a very messy place. Lee Bollinger came from the University of Michigan. He was there a year before I got there. David Stern was the chair of the board. Did a great job in increasing the transparency of all the reporting, et cetera. But we had a lot of things. Again, I had a McKinsey consultant who's a Columbia guy come over to talk to me about it, and he talked to me about anybody that has a medical center is just automatically screwed. I mean, he just said, you're in trouble and you got to really fix all this. So, I took it on to try to put a good board together, really made sure that we decentralized the board, made them work with the different administrative people on committees to make sure that those finance, audit, education policy, health sciences, all these things became student services, student life, everything. Wanted trustees to be able to be have another view into it and have
Come stop you. I'm
Sure.
sorry. How does that compare being chairman of the Board of Trustees at Columbia with being the chairman of the board of Intuit and other corporate boards that you're?
Well, I don't believe it's much different at all, and because I still believe in remanding most of the work to the committees. I think in the general sessions in a public company board, there's going to be enough time during the board meeting for 2, maybe 3 topics, and a lot of the hard work goes on in audit, comp, acquisition committee, nominating governance committee. And you've got to have really good people there with a lot of support from either outside consultants or the people inside the company to do things right. You don't want to have a committee and have everybody be involved in that. You want to report out to them what the committee's decided on so they have an opportunity to do it. The Columbia board is 23 plus the president, and it never appears to be unwieldy because you're breaking this thing, remanding a lot of the combination of decision making, policy making, et cetera, to the committees.
How many people are on Apple's board?
7.
Largest market cap in the world. And it's
Well, that's the little board. You know, we just, and every time they talk about getting somebody else, I have a heart attack. Small is beautiful.
Yeah. So talk to me about MOOCs. This kind of new wave in online education. You're obviously a key advisor to Kleiner Perkins, has made an investment in Coursera. How do you view their kind of entrance into this marketplace, and how disruptive are they? How important are they? How do you look at this?
Well, you know, let's not call it MOOCs. Let's say that.
I hate the name MOOC, by the way.
Well, I don't care what they call it. They can call it anything they want. I just want to call it online education.
Right.
Because there's a lot of ways to approach that. And, you know, the savvy way that people approach providing online education. Think about it this way. You're Stanford or you're Columbia or you're Harvard or you're somebody like that. And, you know, and you're charging an arm and a leg for an education. And so what you really want to do is make sure that you don't do anything that's going to jeopardize the opportunity to continue to gain that kind of financial reward for providing wonderful teaching. That's wonderful education. We want to do that. So you got to be very careful about, you know, what you give away and how you do it and how well it's thought. You know, today you can, you hear the arguments all the time. Do you, you know, they reverse it. Do you do the lecture first and do that online and then do the classroom work? Do you do the classroom work and then follow it up with a, you know, an online session that's done by the faculty that people can look at and recap and do that so that they can take a final? I think the MOOCs are a wonderful idea, and I do think when you see the huge numbers that come out of their people that have taken advantage of a MOOC, you know, particularly in the sciences, it's massive. And they are hugely successful. I spent a lot of time with John Hennessy at Stanford, and I have you know, a great admiration for him. And so when the Coursera people really have come out and got an investment and done that, John was really happy with the fact that, which I thought was very insightful, that there was going to be a for-profit opportunity there. And the for-profit opportunity meant that when one generation of graduate students who were keeping this thing all alive, or some average people were, I mean, the changes in technology, particularly in the data center management, are enormous. And so you want to have people there that are up to date with all of that. So having for me, a for-profit company meant that people are going to care deeply about the evolution of technology, how to apply it, and make sure that people like us, Stanford or Columbia, buy it, or use it, license it, however we're going to do that. So I think that's an important thing. Now, Harvard and MIT went out and did their own edX, and you know, you admire. I would spend a lot of time with Susan Hochfeld. I know Drew Faust a little bit, but I spend a lot of time with Susan Hochfeld when she comes out here. And we talked a lot about it, but she just felt like that was a better way to go. Now, you know, they've opened that up to where Stanford has joined that one as well. But I'm really in favor of, you know, for-profit platforms. I don't think anybody at Columbia has either the capability or we have the wherewithal to be able to invest in a platform that would allow us to do online education. I don't want to make trivial, you know, the engineering work that could go on at Columbia. We could outsource it. We could, you know, do anything we want. But I think that making sure that the best technology continues to be available to us is something that I felt very, very strongly about, and that's what we're doing.
So executive education programs have been a big boon for many elite schools. I mean, what do you think? Do you think they're delivering real value to the students, to the university? I mean, how do you look at that executive education, continuing education wave?
So executive education, you're talking about executive MBAs, those kind of things?
Yeah, well, you know, but some of these executive programs that go on and people say, I got a certificate, and then they bring it to their employer and say, look, I've got this.
Boy, it's a real controversy for us at the trustee level at Columbia. there's a lot of concern that through a lot of people that have been out there that have been promoting the heck out of it, that you're promising people if they come and get this certification, they'll get a job in a very difficult economy. Not exactly the case. But so that's been tough, and we and others, the three of us in the Ivy League that have been really very heavy into that have been Penn, Harvard, and Columbia. And they're providing courses and things that those schools wouldn't normally be known for. IT work or athletic director stuff or something, things like that. I just think that those are the kinds of things that are going to jeopardize your reputation if you do that. So we've had to pull back some of that and be very, very careful. Now, executive education, I think, is really a terrific thing. There's a lot of schools everywhere we go. There are great schools that provide executive MBA programs, executive programs in a lot of other areas, and I think those are enormously worthwhile. These take advantage of companies that want to send their people to these things, and still at the same time, I keep them at work.
I want to go back to coaching, and I know you don't like the term coach of the valley, but that's what people call you. But isn't being a coach basically the same as being a great coach, being the same as being a great teacher, or what's the difference?
Well, I think the teacher thing presumes that the teacher knows a lot, knows the course and the curriculum, and really is going to try to impart a lot of wisdom. I think the coaching thing that I do is more, I want to know, when I work with Eric Schmidt, example, I want to know where he wants to take the company, and then I want to try to help him get there. I think it's different in ways. Some of it is, what are priorities? How do you deal with them? What are crises inside the company? How quickly should you make sure that you manage the company out of it? You spend a lot of time with people who have a lot of angst about what goes on in their management team meetings, and it isn't one-to-one or one-to-many. It is one-to-one. It's not one-to-many. I spend a lot of time with the CEOs. I do right now. I probably have 4 or 5 companies that CEOs are in their first run at it. I got others like Danny Shader at Pay Near Me and Justin Kitch at Curious.com. These are wonderful. These are wonderful things. I go to them because I've been with them in other companies and they want to have me around again, and I like to do that. But my job is to try to course correct them. I'm not going to sit there and lecture them and bully them, or not the teachers do, sorry.
So I know you don't think somebody who's a great head coach, that you don't think that skill translates into being a great CEO. Why is that your view?
You mean a great coach in an athletic thing?
Yes.
Coaching players? Oh, God. So I would say that, did you take a look at that Rutgers video? Never mind, I won't say anything more. Yeah, coach, those.
I thought I was watching our 8th grade football team.
Those kind of, there's a lot of chest pounding and all of that goes on. I think the best coaches like Mike Krzyzewski, people like that, spend their time teaching a philosophy. It doesn't mean that they don't have tempers and anger and ways to spiritedly coach their kids. But the fact is that if you just took the best of those coaches, it wouldn't be that much different than coming in and running a company. The thing that you have is, when you start a company, you better surround yourself with everybody that's as smart and almost as experienced as you are. You got anointed with the CEO job because somebody picked you, a board or whatever. You'd be crazy to go pick a lot of people that aren't really capable. You've got to pick really, really good people, and that means when they're that good, you better listen. My first startup was Claris, and I was in my room. I was in my CEO mode for about 6 or 8 weeks, and Donna Dubinsky came up and wanted to see me after the end of the day, and she says, if you're going to make all the decisions, all of us are going to go back to Apple. You know, you hired us because we know what we're doing. Let us run our groups. Let us happen. It was just, a very startling shakeup of me that said, let go of the reins, let these people do their jobs, course correct them if you see that they need it.
Well, I know you don't believe leadership can be taught. I mean, why is that?
Well, leadership is something that people bestow on you. You do some really good things. You help them through a crisis time. You help the company by making strong decisions. You make, you do a lot of stuff. You stare down there, you're bored. There's a lot of things you could do. I say your title and what you do makes you a manager. And you're a manager and you have to learn management practices. How do you make your people better? How do you run a staff meeting? How do you coach somebody that's in trouble? How can they come to you and help them go right or left? Let them know what to do. They're struggling with a problem. How can you advise them on that problem? Or even maybe open a door that could help them. Bring two people together to stop the bickering inside the company. But a leader is going to do a lot of those things. If they feel, if I was coaching you and you saw me trying to help you get better, and you said to me, Bill's my leader, then I would accept that. But I would never take the mantle of being a leader. Somebody has to bestow it on you. You have to earn that from your people. I don't use the word. I hate to use the word at all. And when you watch somebody that's a real leader, you'll know it. But I want everybody that I coach and train, I want them to be good managers.
So talk to me about some of these new leaders. Who do you think could be, there'll never be another Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos, you said a genius, but who are the next up-and-coming leaders, great entrepreneurs, CEOs in Silicon Valley that people haven't heard about yet?
Well, you've heard of some of them. Some of the ones that I know that I've worked with have been like Jack Dorsey and Dick Costolo.
The Twitter.
Twitter, the founder. Well, one's Square, the other's Twitter, but
right. Both
of them were Twitter guys. You look at Drew Houston at Dropbox. You get Danny Shader from Payoneer Me, Justin Kitch I mentioned earlier, Danny Shader from Danny. Who was the other one I was going to talk about?
Flipboard.
Flipboard. Mike McHugh, terrific entrepreneur. One of the really, really brilliant guys. So there's a lot of good young people coming up there that deserve to be mentioned. People that have a real feel for what. I don't know Kevin Systrom, but I'm assured that he's great. Mark Zuckerberg is already great. You already know about them, but some of them come with limited management practices and don't know how to do it. And over time, they realize that that's what they have to do. I watched Larry Page today. He's so different than he was just a couple of years ago. And to see him running that company with such proficiency really makes me feel good.
So historically, Silicon Valley VCs have avoided education technology like the plague. And now you've got this kind of wave of the very top tier VCs, Benchmark and Kleiner Perkins and Andreessen Horowitz, which you do a lot of work with, Sequoia. They're all rushing in. What's changed? Why now? What's changed, and what do you see going on?
You don't think it's because of some wonderful thing that's occurring in their hearts, do you? They think they can make money, And what did Luigi say in New York? It's not the money, it's the friggin' money, And they think that there's money to be made, and they're going to look at that opportunity and take it. You couldn't get anybody to invest in an education startup years ago, but today, education is using technology in So the application of technology, if you take what Daphne's doing and at Coursera, I mean, there's some good stuff there, some smart stuff, and she goes into the venture markets to be able to get not only money, but she gets coached by some of the best people in Silicon Valley. That helps her, the two of them, a lot, so that they come out the other side with a good company that can be prosperous for their investors. I mean, look, you don't think everybody went after green because they wanted to save the world, do you? I mean, they thought that they could benefit from, while the world was being saved, they could make money.
So, and
If there are any venture capitalists in the room, sorry, I mean, it's your job to return money to your limited, so it's okay.
So Andreessen Horowitz is a firm that you've spent a bunch of time with, and
Well,
historically.
Ben Horowitz is I was on the Netscape board with Marc. I was with them when they started LoudCloud, which became Opsware. Ben is a Columbia grad, and he is now a trustee at Columbia. So yes, I'm very close with them. I just wanted you to know how it happened.
And historically, and you still work with Kleiner in Benchmark. What about Andreessen Horowitz? Because they've come on the playing field like in a storm. I mean, what are they doing that's kind of making them so unique?
Well, the uniqueness of what they do is it's startlingly unique. Is that they've turned it into a service business. So if you went there, I don't know what it is now. They might be up to 6 investing partners, but they have 15 or 20 service partners, people that can coach companies on how to hire salespeople, people that will help them with product launches, people that understand social media, people that know. And so they've done a great job of putting a team of people together that will support the investing partners and the investment and the CEOs of early stage companies. It's a terrific thing. You know, for years, Kleiner Perkins provided a recruiting network. And I'm sure there are others that have done that. I don't know how many others have. But other than that, and maybe an occasional contract PR person that would help you with a product launch, they didn't do a lot. They Andreessen Horowitz, have really mastered the art of providing all the facility that startups need to be able to be successful. I mean, it's a terrific idea, and it's unique.
So you're obviously chairman of the board of trustees at Columbia, but you're very close to the people at Stanford, do a lot over there. When you look at their tech transfer business or process, I mean, how unique is that, and do you think any other schools can really replicate what goes on at Stanford?
Well, you know, first of all, you better be good at technology and have a lot of technology there. When you have a lot of technology that comes from within, from graduate students, et cetera, you better learn how to do it, or you know, you're either going to give it to them and they walk out the door with it, or you're going to go to jail. You know, you have to really pay attention to that. We at Columbia had a discussion with them where Helen Gurley Brown donated $40 million in her and her husband's name, and she wanted to share it between Stanford and Columbia Journalism, Stanford Engineering and Columbia Journalism School. And you know, John Hennessy couldn't have been more helpful there. And we're babes in the woods. We're okay on some of the technology transfer, but John just said to me, let us handle all the technology stuff, because what we were doing was providing scholars with an opportunity to get what we're trying to do with the Helen Gurley Brown is to protect the value of reporting, so that, you know, how would you figure out how to make sure that all of it is truthful and valid, you know, so that the lunatic blogs that are out there that aren't truthful can be called out or sent away. We don't know that there's ways to do that, but there's a lot of ideas there as to how to make reporting, most of this reporting, more valid. So Helen, just before she died, I mean, she was still very understanding of what was going on, and the two deans, the dean of the School of Engineering at Stanford and the dean at the School of Journalism at Columbia, got together, decided on this, but it was John Hennessy that took all of the responsibility for making sure that there were rules put in place for tech transfer. Stanford's in a league of its own. My guess is, you know, the ones at the universities that are really tech-oriented, like MIT, probably are pretty sophisticated there as well, but though I don't know that. I just know that Stanford is really good. And I'd say we're learning a lot at Columbia as Columbia is becoming more of a, as New York City's becoming more of a startup environment. We have to learn how to do that.
Right. So I wanted you to give me kind of a rapid fire response. I'm gonna name some people, and I want to get your kind of one, no more than 2 sentences on these people. Okay? Let's start with Jeff Bezos.
Oh, I just, so brilliant before his time and totally unafraid. That's one sentence, right? So, but the other is that, the other part of it is, he's not let Wall Street drive him crazy. If he feels like he needs to invest in new data centers, in new warehouses, new systems to make himself better, he just does it, and he doesn't really care if his earnings aren't up to their expectation. I think at this point, the street has bought into what he does, and I think they trust him. As the revenue goes up, even when the profitability isn't there, he's done a great job with that.
Eric Schmidt.
Eric Schmidt. Nobody could have done what Eric did when he came to Google. He took over a tiny company with no revenue. At the end of he started in June. By Christmas, they had $25 million of revenue, and all 25 had come from AOL. And that was it.
As you look at Steve Case.
As I looked at Steve Case, yeah. I was just look over there. Old buddy, we used to hang out at Apple in the corridors in the old days and try to figure out what things we could do together. But Eric gradually built that company, hired great people. If you look at the management team that Larry has, I would guess that 75 or 80% of the management team is still there from Eric's day. He put a business model in place. He made sure that it was a worldwide company. Larry and Sergey were able to communicate with him. It was when they wanted something, Eric could understand what they wanted and why they wanted to do it. Not that other people couldn't do it, but he certainly was able to, coach them into outcomes that I think anybody else that had gone in there might not have been able to do.
Steve Jobs.
Thomas Edison, the entrepreneur of our time, one of the greatest product inventors ever. He didn't always invent the technology, but he always invented the product. There isn't a thing that he did that he didn't demand from his people to be perfect. And, it shows. Has he made a couple of mistakes in his time? Yeah, but if you take the number of products that have been out there, even in his last run in 1997, he probably has only had 2 out of, whatever, hundreds of products that came out the door that weren't up to something that you and I would say was excellent.
Tim Cook.
Tim Cook, if you think the stuff that he's done on the logistics, infrastructure, kind of, let's call it sourcing, inventory management, all of the operations stuff, he set new standards. These are things that nobody did before, and I'm still not sure that anybody has really understood quite what he's done over in China and helping design machines so that products can be put out at lower cost. The investment that he's made, in the Chinese companies for a manufacturing standpoint. But his whole inventory pipeline management, return on cash, fantastic. And he just understood it better than anybody.
John Doerr.
John Doerr, a really great entrepreneur, a guy that leads with his heart. There's a lot of things that when I mentioned all the green investments, John invested a lot in the green investments because it really made him feel like he was doing good. But he's a man with a big heart. He's one of those guys I talked to you about that can apply to understand the application of technology and knows how to invest in it. Terrific guy.
We talked about Marc Andreessen, Ben Horowitz. Any flash comment?
Well, look, Marc is a stubborn guy. He's very willful. He wants things done his way, and most of the time he's right. When I see what went on at when I was on the board. I was on the board at Netscape and on the board at Opsware. In both of those places, he put his foot down on things that he really wanted to do, and they couldn't have turned out to be better. I mean, he was right on those things, and it was hard. He was hard to deal with in a lot of those ways. But look, everybody knows he's smart, but he understands the strategic outcome. When he wanted to get out of in Opsware, when he wanted to get out of the data center management and wanted to turn that into a software product, I think Andy Ratcliffe and I were like, and Mike Homer was on the board, and then you go, what are you talking about? Well, the balance sheet was down under $20 million. The big corporations weren't buying what we were doing, and we turned it into a software. I mean, we had the software, we had to turn it into a deployable software product. That was his idea, totally his idea.
So Ronnie Lott's a keynote tomorrow night. Ronnie Lott.
Oh my goodness, how can somebody who's on the fringe of Silicon Valley be so intimate to it? A guy like Ronnie knows everybody because he cares about all of us. And it took him a long while to get acclimatized to the technology so that he felt comfortable in the presence of all of us in the Valley that knew all about technology. When he and Harris and Joe Montana first started, they were a fund of funds, and what they wanted to do is just have access to the venture funds by providing the funds with big names that could speak at their conferences. It's way different now. Ronnie's very, very good thinker, deep, I won't say deep technically, but really strong technically, knows exactly what to do. There's nothing that he can't do. I think he could be an officer of a company in Silicon Valley if he really wanted to be.
I agree. Last question. So this summit's all about education, innovation, and entrepreneurship. If you were to give one bit of advice to the entrepreneurs in this audience that want to really bring their idea to life, what would it be?
Oh my goodness, one thought. So I think, I'm going to give you two thoughts, okay? I'll cheat. I'd say get a VC that's known for coaching companies, bringing company to life. Money's out there. Anybody can give you money. You need somebody that's going to give you advice and help and bring some of the resources they have in the company to bear. And the second thing, which is just important, do never trivialize hiring. You can't go and meet somebody at a conference or meet somebody at a bar and figure they're good. You've got to make sure that the rigor that you have for the first 5 people you hired is the same rigor that you have when you're 500 people or 1,000 people. Google today and Apple today, two of the great ones there, are just absolutely rigorous about everybody that they bring into the company with references and interviews and things like that. So those would be two things. I cheated on you by 2. Sorry.
Spectacular. Thank you very much.